Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholson. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the program consultant for Dance NYC's fourth iteration of the Dance Advancement Fund. Thank you for viewing this webinar today. Before we begin the presentation, please note that for the duration of the webinar, I will not be visible, but our ANSL interpreters will be visible alongside the presentation. I am a Black woman with brown tones, wearing a black knitted dress with white on the collar, and also deep wine-colored hair. Just a little bit about myself. I am Executive Director at Move NYC, an arts and social justice organization with the mission to cultivate greater diversity and equity within the dance profession and beyond. But in essence, I am a justice-driven, creatively inclined, nonprofit arts leader with 9 years of advancement expertise, namely business strategy, fundraising, DEI, marketing, and board and program development. My other affiliations are with Dance NYC, Dance USA, New York Foundation for the Arts, the International Association of Blacks in Dance, the Jose Limon Dance Foundation, as well as Gibney, which has resulted in 6 new studios and an elevator at 280 Broadway. I'm excited to be this year's program consultant to engage in peer learning and sharings with you as part of this webinar. Again, we will have ASL interpretation for this webinar, and that is being provided on behalf of Sign Nixus. Closed captioning is being provided by the Viscardi Center. Thank you to our accessibility providers for being here today. Welcome, everyone, to Dance NYC's Dance Advancement Fund webinar entitled Basics of Building and Running a Dance Entity. So, what are we talking about during this webinar? The first thing that we will discuss is fiscal sponsorship versus nonprofit status. We will then talk about what it means to define your company's mission, vision, values, and DEI, which should also be entwined with values. Who should invest in your company and why? Are you clear about that messaging? We'll talk about that. How to grow your supporters and audience. And then we'll close out with a resource toolkit so that you have some sources to look at for further information. This webinar will be very top level. It'll give lots of information, but hopefully I'm speaking to a range of people in the room in terms of this information, but my hope is to do 2 things as part of this webinar. The first is to help you prepare a compelling application, specifically the sections that ask for statements on your mission and DEI values, as well as use of funds. And also just to provide you with top level insights into building upon your company's thrivability. Let's dig in. Okay, so fiscal sponsorship versus nonprofit status. Which one is working well for your company? As a part of the Dance Advancement Fund, eligibility is for nonprofit companies as well as those who are fiscally sponsored. So if you're in this room, you're in the right place. Should you be a collective and just want to learn some information about what it might mean to have one of these entity formations, stick around and learn some more. But let's start with fiscal sponsorship. Using a fiscal sponsorship arrangement offers a way for you to attract donors even when not yet recognized as a tax-exempt nonprofit organization, a 501c3. In essence, the fiscal sponsor will serve as your administrative home, the administrative home for your cause, where donations and grants are given to the fiscal sponsor to ultimately support you. And a fiscal sponsorship arrangement, the sponsor accepts tax-deductible donations and grants on your behalf of your full organization, your operating budget, and or a specific project. They will have the responsibility of helping you to ensure that the funds are being used appropriately, that what you said in a grant or in an application, like the Dance Advancement Fund, about your use of funds matches how those funds are being used in actuality. A fiscal sponsor, would provide that fiduciary oversight, as mentioned. They will support you with financial management and other administrative services to help build your capacity. There's another seminar that talks about financial planning and budgeting. That goes into detail about how important having accurate bookkeeping and accounting and awareness around your finances to date and what you might be projecting, like just how important that is. And working with the fiscal sponsor in this way helps to do just that. So if you're thinking about entering a fiscal sponsorship or are already in one, you would be and are in good hands with a fiscal sponsor helping you with this bookkeeping aspect. The range of services will differ based on the fiscal sponsor, but in large, they will have a cost. Generally, that fee is between 5 to 10% of all funds on behalf of your company. So just know in your budget that there will be a fee should you work with the fiscal sponsor. And if you think about it in long range, if this is a long-term or an interim step, this helps you to think about what kind of personnel you'll need as you grow your budget, because when you are increasing your staff capacity, that also has expenses or fees tied to them. So I understand if the resources aren't there, it can be hard to think about how much that would be to pay a fiscal sponsor, but just know that any personnel support, unless it's volunteer support, you should anticipate budgeting for that expense. Nonprofit organizations, companies, are organized groups of people that form the purpose of providing goods and services. Each nonprofit should have an established board of directors to oversee the organization, the governance, and the fiduciary responsibilities of the organization. Your board is your first champion. They are supposed to intimately understand your mission, your vision, your DEI values. They should intimately understand what your annual activities are, your selection process for who you serve and who's a part of your company. Your board should be your first line of showing up in terms of investment. So you want to have a really great vetting process for that, and to be selective about who those people are and making sure that they align with your company. In simple terms, a nonprofit organization is one that functions to further a mission, social cause, or shared goal. Unlike businesses, nonprofit organizations do not exist to make a profit. Nonprofit organizations can and should engage in fundraising activities to ensure they have the funds to support their operations. And because nonprofit organizations provide valuable services to the community, they are not asked to pay taxes. So that's one additional benefit. You might notice that as a fiscally sponsored entity, when you're applying for certain grants, that there may be a smaller threshold for the level of grant award. That is something that would be true if you didn't notice that. So as a nonprofit entity, especially once you reach a certain budget size, you would be eligible for larger size grants, which also means that you have to go through more financial oversight by an independent auditor, you know, for like a financial review or to do your audit, depending on your budget size, or, you know, just a letter about your financial statements. So, you know, it just requires more on your end, and to make sure that you have the support to keep up with the bookkeeping and the budgeting and the financial planning for your nonprofit organization. So you have a company, you're either fiscally sponsored or you're a nonprofit organization. And one thing that comes up time and time again that you're asked is, what is your mission? What is your vision, your values, as well as your DEI values? So let's pull this apart in terms of what that means. And of course, it's going to be different for everyone. So I'll stray away from giving specific examples, but want to provide you with the information so that you can continue to identify and refine yours. A mission statement is intended to be a succinct expression of an organization's, of a company's essential reason for existence, your core purpose. A mission statement outlines why you exist, who you serve, and what are your overall goals, and what you value most. It's your identity, it's your brand. Some companies will also have a vision statement as a supplement to the mission statement, and has more of a grand view. It operates under the assumption that you will succeed in achieving your mission, and what that means when, well, should and when that happens. So that's just a larger statement as a additional context to your mission. Mission and vision statements establish the long-term direction and goals that guide a company's daily operations. It provides a foundation for your activities, your commissions, your programs, your services, communications, culture, your entire organization. It's that bedrock. And then when we start to talk about your values, which will vary across companies, one thing that, whether it's in recent time or not, that is critical and important is to have values around diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I will keep referring to as DEI. And if you don't already have one, you should. And if you don't, we'll get into some props and some things to think about as we go along so that you can develop your own statement. So like mission and vision statements, a DEI statement provides a guiding principle for your company to aspire to. When you define your commitment to DEI, it helps direct the company's action towards success, the sort of projects you'll take on, the sort of partners you will work with, the people who serve as ambassadors for the work that you do, the people that you hire and your volunteers and on your board. It almost becomes one band, one sound, that the people that you serve and the people that are a part of the decision-making process and or are helping to manifest your mission should all be aligned with your mission, your vision, your values, and your DEI statement. Every decision that you make, from the smallest choices to the largest strategic plan, should support your overall mission and your DEI commitment. It also can help illustrate your company's commitment to fostering a welcoming environment, and also solidifies your pledge to advance equity and inclusion among everyone that interacts with you. So talking about DEI, I feel like this ties nicely into some of the prompts that may be asked of you as you complete the Dance Advancement Fund application, particularly questions about what is your DEI statement? How does that show up in your work and in your practice? Of course, there'll be questions about your mission and how what you do mirrors that. So you want to be ready with that information. And I would say that, like, again, the DI statement is not just a statement that lives somewhere like on your website. It should permeate every facet of your organization and how you interact and fulfill your mission. So some things that you can think about if you are creating a DEI statement is to examine your own values. Should you be the founder, the artistic director, executive director, company director, someone that has some influence over operations and goals? You want to think about your own values, and then how do you see that being in alignment with the organization and what you would like the world to know about those values? And what does it say about your company? What do you want your dancers and the marketplace to know about your commitment to DEI? And then just put that all together and translate that into a statement. Yeah, that's what I will say about this section. I'm confident that many of you already have a mission statement, which is fantastic. Perhaps you don't have a vision statement and this conversation has sparked interest in you in creating that. I'll share a resource later for that, as well as DEI and creating your own values and how that shows up in all facets of your organization. So now that you know what your mission, your vision, your values, DEI statement is your purpose. So what, right? So once you know that, you can go to stakeholders, to prospective donors, funders, audience members, prospective board members, or if these people are already in your network, nurturing those relationships so that they can invest in your why and your purpose. If you are starting from scratch and this is all new information and you want to know who should be investing in your company and why, always go back to your mission, your vision, your values, your DEI statement. You want those people, again, to be a mirror to what your company is all about, to your brand, to your identity, to be ambassadors. So you just want to make sure that those are folks first and foremost that are aligned. Then you want to take a look at who's already been in your network, who's come to a show or a rehearsal, or is engaging with you when you send personal emails or newsletters, or are on social media and they're engaging with your content. Those are some of the people that you first want to think about to go to say, hey, I have this opportunity that's coming up and I think that you would love to be in the room for that. I think this would be a fantastic opportunity for you to learn more. That's one way to think about it. Another way, and this is touched on in separate webinars, one that's based on fundraising and one that's based on budgeting. So I will direct you there for more information. But another way, of course, is looking at your opportunities for fundraising, as well as your earned income opportunities. So again, if there's a show that's coming up and that's ticketed, that's an opportunity. Who should be in the room for that and may also have the capacity, the financial capacity to support a ticket purchase? And the same fashion, thinking about that for donors, and if they have capacity to give a donation. Should you have a pre or post reception after your show and make an appeal for fundraising because this project, for example, the show that you've seen tonight and the commissioning of the artist cost us $7,500. We want to do more, we want to workshop this more, and we imagine that the total budget is now going to be 10,000. Will you help us tonight in the room to fill that gap? So you want to think about the people have already sort of, are already in the soup and see how you can cultivate and nurture that relationship to manifest in an investment. There's also the cold call of researching institutions and seeing whose funding priorities align with your mission and your projects, your offerings, who you serve. That is also a great way to expand your portfolio and to perhaps get larger grants to support more than one project at a time, to support your overarching organizational operating budget, and ways to research some of that. And again, there's other webinars that touch on it more. In the immediate, you can look at, do some research on similar companies to yours and see if their funders are listed on their page. If they are, that's great news. What you can do then is lift those names, go into a database like that's online, like GuideStar or Candid, Nonprofit Explorer, and go ahead and paste that funder's name in, scroll, look for the 990, click the most recent one that's listed, scroll down, and you'll see a list of grant recipients and at what level they were being supported at and for what cause. Was it general operating? Was it project specific? It will give you a lot of information. And then, it's wonderful when all the stars align and you're like, wow, I thought maybe they would give this amount, but it's much more. Just remembering that the people that you are asking to invest in your company, it's all about relationship building, whether that's an individual or someone who is a person and works at the institution. So you just want to think about that as well when you're making your pitches and your appeals for investment. Same goes for asking people to fill, your audience, your patrons who are coming to see shows. You want to be clear about what it is that they're supporting and why, and the timeline and the cost. Yeah, and you want to identify opportunities that support your vision, because vision can't happen without the resources. They go hand in hand, right? We need both and. So please visit the webinars about devising a fundraising strategy, as well as talking about financial planning and budgeting, to go into some of the things that I kind of like put on the spaghetti on the wall for you just a moment ago. And yeah, so those are the different pathways for support. I guess I looped them both in at the same time. So we'll go on to the next slide. And we're getting to the end, friends. So yes, we just talked about why, you have to be very clear about your purpose. There's ways to form your entity to support that purpose, whether that's fiscal sponsorship or being a nonprofit. We talked about the importance of having clarity and also making sure that what you say is what you do in terms of your mission, your vision, your values, your DEI statement, and also a couple of examples of how you can communicate or why someone, or how to think about why someone should be investing in your company and the project, and how knowing the cost of each project budget can help you map out your why and use of funds in an application. I do believe in this application for the Dance Advancement Fund, you will be asked to talk about how funds will be used. So you want to be very clear about that and have accurate bookkeeping, financial tracking to back that up. So now that you know all of that, and we're thinking about how to put together our pitch to ask people for support, again, there's some avenues that you can go down and plan ahead to help you grow your supporters and that relationship building that we just talked about. So you want to map out your annual engagement plan. What is the schedule of your activities? Let's get them into a calendar. From some of you, you might be the only employee. There might be a group of 2 to 3. For others, you may have more support. An activity calendar can be a great friend in helping you to devise not only, or just, to stay organized about what's happening for your company and the activities and when, but also to map out how you communicate that to people. How can you think about those activities and those communications as an opportunity for engagement for prospective donors, funders, partners, presenters to be in the room? That could look like a rehearsal that's happening and inviting someone to an exclusive behind the scenes rehearsal, a post chat with the commission choreographer and the dancers to talk about the project and the vision for the project. That could look like an actual performance and meeting up with a prospective donor or funder one-to-one over dinner before the show or after, depending on the time after the show. That could look like maximizing opportunity and capacity to impact and engage with more people. So maybe that's a pre-reception or a post-reception to get people in the room, come to see the work. Now they're seeing their support in action, right? Invitation to see your work in action. That's right. And again, with the communications plan, that's letting them know about what's going on without an ask for financial support. In terms of relationship building, you want people to engage with you as much as they can, whether they can be there to support you in the physical, in person, or not. You want to send email updates frequently, and frequently can look different to different people. That could be quarterly, twice a year. If it's monthly, who knows? You can send newsletters or e-blast to reach a wider audience without having to do the manual labor of sending those personal emails. Perhaps you want a scaffolded strategy where who you identify as being a major donor are the people that you're sending those personal updates to as you work on your cycle of pushing people up the ladder for greater support. That could look like, depending on your budget, like if you have enough funds for a cultivation line item, taking someone out to coffee to learn more about your work, lunch or dinner, scheduling a formal meeting. It could be a phone call. So people still like phone calls, and definitely use social media. Social media is your friend, whichever tool you like. It seems like Instagram and some other places are the go-tos, but this allows your audience, your community to engage with you at an instant, to put some visuals to the work. As I know, sometimes newsletter sites can be a bit limiting in how you present your media. But yeah, use that to your advantage. If people are liking things, take note of who's doing it often and invite them to the next opportunity that you have to engage with you. And we are about to close out, friends. So closing out, I'm sharing a resource toolkit just to talk about some of the things that I've mentioned at a high level in more detail. One thing that is really exciting as an offering as a part of the Dance Advancement Fund is that you will have opportunities to participate in professional development sessions, as well as be paired with a one-to-one coach based on the needs that you express in the application. So again, being very clear about your mission, your vision, your values, your DEI statements, being very clear about the Dance Advancement Fund should invest in you. How are you using the funds? What is your why? How is that attached to a dollar amount after doing some really good financial planning and budgeting? So tying those things together. I will also be available to you as a resource. I'm excited to offer one-to-one technical sessions. So should you want to do a deeper dive, want something by me before you press submit, I am happy to be of support to you. So please reach out. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about forming a nonprofit or being fiscally sponsored, please visit this link here. This resource will be shared at a later time, but please visit Council for Nonprofits. If you are interested in learning more or revamping your mission, vision, and values, DEI statement, please check out BridgeSpan. And if you want to learn more about development, fundraising, just as an overview, please visit Bloomerang. But if you want more of a deep dive, I do have a webinar that's all about fundraising. Please check that out. So thank you everyone for being here with us at this webinar. I hope you found it to be helpful for you. I would like to thank our accessibility service providers at SignNexus and the Viscardi Center for the support today, and wish you all the best.